Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
All right, hey everybody, welcome to episode 370 of the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. I'm your host, Anthony Renna. The show notes are located at StrengthCoachPodcast.com. All right, today on the StrengthCoach.com and NBSC.TV Coach's Corner, I spoke with Coach Boyle about hip thrusts, whether he likes them or whether he doesn't like them or if he uses them, how sport coaches can get conditioning in without those crazy end of practice finishers, and slow strength work for tendon health. For the AG1 Athletic Greens Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment, I have on John Graham, who is the Senior Network Administrator for Fitness and Sports Performance at St. Luke's University Health Network. He also is the author of Metabolic Training, the Ultimate Guide to the Ultimate Workout. We're going to talk about what metabolic training is. Is it just a focus on metabolism, or is it just HIIT? How it can complement serious or competitive athletes' training. Can we work on strength, power, and aerobic methodologies at once, or what about the interference effect? We're going to talk a little bit about EPOC, and we're just going to get an overview of the book Metabolic Training, the Ultimate Guide to Ultimate Workout. I've been using it a little bit. It's been really good. I think John did a great job with this. So good stuff coming up from John a little bit. AG1 by Athletic Greens, 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. Visit athleticgreens.com/strengthcoach and get your free year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs today. For the Naamly, maximizing the member experience with Sumit Seth. He's the founder of Naamly, and he's going to talk about the little things that make a big difference. Little amenities that can turn your gym into your members' haven. Guys, the Perform Better holiday sale is here, up to 40% off so many items. Sale items include Ultimate Sandbag, TRX trainers, all kinds of bands, med balls, plyo boxes, dumbbells, barbells, bumper plates, and racks. Check it all out at performbetter.com. Guys, lots of things to get to, so let's get on the phone with Coach Boyle. All right, guys, now it's time for the hit of the StrengthCoach.com and NBSC.TV Coach's Corner with Coach Boyle. Thought it was the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment. It's not. You can try the StrengthCoach.com out for 7 days for free. Go to StrengthCoach.com for 7 days free trial. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you? How many people watch this on YouTube? I always look like the no neck because of the way I sit here slumping on my couch. Now it's mostly listening, so I'm not being seen. Okay.
Yeah, I really just use the video for the marketing purposes. That's it. So
But most people think I'm a really squatty guy with no neck because if I sat up straight like this, I'd look much better. But it's so uncomfortable.
It's hard when you do all your interviews on a freaking couch, man.
I do a lot. I like the couch. I'm a big couch guy.
It's okay, man. Hey, it works. Let's talk about your latest tweet. And I'm just going to take it from a different angle. This is the annual winter reminder to hockey and basketball coaches. The best conditioning is a good practice. If you're a basketball coach, don't finish with suicides. If you're a hockey coach, don't bag them at the end. Don't be an injury creation dummy. Just a quick, not a devil's advocate. What about the coaches out there that are with these teams that they don't do, and they're not having any strength and conditioning. They don't have a strength and conditioning coach. They're not really in the gym. They want to kind of condition them. Well, how do you advise them, from the perspective? Is it still, hey, just have a good practice? If they're not getting those sprinting, the conditioning in a gym, how do you advise those coaches?
Well, one, you are the devil's advocate, just so you know. When you always say, I'm not trying to, you are the devil's advocate.
Okay.
That movie was absolutely about you. But no, I think the problem is you're overwhelming these kids to begin with through the process of tryouts and starting practicing. So I think at some point you could start to institute some conditioning with whatever, like in hockey, whatever, over and back kind of stuff, or, the same hockey does the same sort of suicide as basketball, blue line back, red line, like that kind of stuff. I think you can do that. You can't do it in the first couple of weeks because you are literally in the injury creation business, because most of these kids are barely hanging on, because even if they've trained and done what they're supposed to do, very few kids are getting 5 or 6 days of practice a week leading up to this first week of tryouts. Like, I know I just look at it in terms of Reading hockey where Mark played. Tryouts are really intense. They probably have, I bet there's 100 kids trying out. I heard there were 30 ninth graders this year that were trying out. So there's probably 100 kids that they're trying, and they really honestly try to do a good job of evaluating them. But they're on the ice every day. And most of these kids have probably, if you looked and said, okay, what were they doing before? They were probably playing 1 to 2 games on the weekend and maybe getting 1 to 2 1-hour practices, maybe. And then they're going to go to 5 days in a row of tryouts at this sort of frantic game pace, try to get noticed pace. And I think that applies all over the place. That's basketball. And basketball and hockey are the two biggies, I think, this time of year in terms of doing it. So I think you just have to, we're all conditioned through kind of our old high school coach that you finish practice with conditioning. Okay, we're going to condition. We're going to get them in shape. And the reality is you're not. You're going to do a lot of slow stuff. You're going to do a lot of, you're going to watch people literally dying. People are going to throw up. People are going to just be, we used to call it, Ben Smith, who was one of our coaches at BU hockey a long time ago, coached the 98 Olympic team. He said, you're going to practice screwing up. You're going to practice being bad, because all you're going to do at the end is, by trying to get through it, you're going to create bad habits. So other people say, oh, you got to learn to push at the end when you're tired. Yeah, I get it. But that's honestly, it's extremely unrealistic. And if you're going to do that, maybe wait a week, maybe wait 2 weeks, and then really start to dose that stuff in carefully. I think most coaches don't think at all about how many they're going to do, whether you're evaluating total time or total distance. And that's why when people talk about load management and all this stuff, we've been doing this forever. All of our conditioning programs were written out based on either time or yardage or both. And we were always kind of 10% rule, maybe 20 early on, because we couldn't, 10% just wasn't enough to add another interval or another rep. But our stuff was always dosed so carefully. And I think that's why we were healthy. We didn't have a lot of injury problems, because we were, even with my BU guys, conditioning. And again, we had an ideal situation. Conditioning was basically on the bike. We'd skate a little bit. We'd skate just enough. And then we'd come in and we'd really beat them up on the bike, because I used to go back. Remember Alan Cosgrove's Afterburn program? And in Afterburn, I remember he talked about the bike, and he said, I want to make sure I get this right. Maximum metabolic stress with minimal muscular disruption, right? Like, in other words, I can shit kick you on that assault bike or Airdyne or whatever dual action bike you're going to use, and you're not going to pull a muscle. You're not going to pull a hamstring. You're not going to pull a groin. You might pull a lung, but you're not going. Nothing else bad is going to happen. How's that?
Yeah,
That was a 10-minute answer, I think.
that's not bad.
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk to you next time. But it's funny. I have witnessed the BU back in the day. BU kind of Tabata.
Yeah.
Let's just call it Tabata, man. I don't even know how these kids are doing the 2010s, and then they had the other guys are line 2's going on, or like then they had to come back to it and do another one. It was brutal. I couldn't even
It was hard but organized. We knew exactly how much, how often. It was everything, and it was all laid out. I laid out our conditioning. I could show you our conditioning for all of September and how it was laid out and how the progression was. And, it was like 2 10-20s, then 20-10, 10-20, then 20, 220, you know what I mean? Then 2 20-10s, then 2 20-10s and a 10-20. I mean, it was really And I think that's how everybody should do it. But too many people are just throwing shit against the wall and trying to see what sticks and calling it conditioning. So
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the conversation we had a couple episodes ago about, when, conditioning, before or after practice, or, what should be, because how about if they had no choice, kind of every couple, let's say every 10, 15 minutes, not bag skating them, but doing some sprinting, or, kind of spreading it out throughout just to make it
Coach
more
Parker
of a
used to do it
conditioning.
all the time. He'd be like, okay, lap, let's go one hard lap. Like sometimes,
Oh, okay.
particularly if they were doing more teaching stuff where it was a little bit slower, then he would do that. Like, okay, hard lap, boom, 15 seconds is about what it takes you to get around, if you're going behind the nets kind of thing. And yeah, and we'd call that microdosing now, right? We microdosed our conditioning at that time. And there were a lot of things. I mean, we had an on ice interval program that was all planned out. And so we would go out. I don't know if you were ever there when we did that, but we'd put one net on each dot, kind of opposite corners of the rink, and then we'd have two cones that were out there so that we had their marks in terms of where they had to stay outside. And we started, one of the things we realized is that the up and back stuff was what beat up guys' groins. If we skated more straight line, did more laps, we had less problems. And we'd start like six singles, 6 times one lap. So basically 6 times 15 seconds. And then we'd build off of that, because we'd look at that and say, okay, first conditioning is 2 minutes and 30 seconds of actual work. And then we're going to build from 2:30. The second conditioning might be 3 minutes of actual work. That might have been 8 times one lap. And then we might have said, okay, we're going to start with we'd start with 2 doubles, 2 times 2 laps, and same thing we'd do on the track or however we did it. But it was all plotted. Everything had a rhyme and a reason to it, in terms of, because what do we want? We want graduated exposure. We want to get to the point where we can do more, but we don't want to try to do more by overwhelming the system. I think you're trying to coax the system along. You're trying to facilitate adaptation, if you want to use big words.
Okay. Mike, side note, while we're talking about hockey, interesting, one of the main hockey players that I grew up with his dad that I trained, Dante Palumbo. He's at Middlebury, just started at Middlebury. Interesting. My favorite coach as a kid at the SVS hockey schools for 5 years, at first at Taft and then at Brown, was Len Siglarski. Obviously, you know who Len Siglarski is, the famous BC coach. I absolutely loved him, and I knew him pretty well at the time as a kid. Dante's coach is his grandson.
Yeah.
So I couldn't believe it. I'm like, it's just weird because Dante is my main, we
Yeah.
talk all the time. And then to have that as his coach.
Is Babe the one that's his coach, or is that his father? I can't remember which one it is. Because either the son or the grandson was Babe. I don't know how he got to be Babe.
It might have been Len's. Was that Len's nickname?
No, Len
Okay.
Babe was either the son or the grandson.
Okay. Yeah,
But
might have been the son.
They've been around coaching. I mean, God, Lenny was old when I first got to BU. So the grandfather, I mean, I don't know if he's even still alive, but if he was,
He's not.
he's not. Because I was going to say, because Coach Parker is 79 or will be 79, which means Len Siglarski, if he was alive, probably would be well into his 80s.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking late 70s, early 80s that I was going to these camps. So
yeah.
Funny. Coach, somebody was talking. Oh, I think it was Carmen Bott. No, might not have been Carmen. Sorry. Hip thrust. I forget who it was. Anyway, loaded.
Same guy, Turner.
Yes, Chris Turner, right? Chris Turner, Curtis Turner, Curtis. He was asking about. Yeah, I guess it was more of a naming thing. So I don't really going to get the name. Charlie was talking about a loaded bridge. I've often called them a shoulder elevated bridge. But you said you don't even like the exercise. Can you just expand on why you don't like the exercise?
I don't like the exercise because I think most people make it a lumbar extension exercise. I think that's a really complex movement. And when we start teaching bridging, what we're really trying to teach people is, again, we want to get big wordy, lumbopelvic control, right? We want to be able to control that whatever, to get them to some level of neutral pelvis, meaning we've got activated anterior abdominals and we've got somebody in the right position and we're bringing them up into that position with their glutes. They're not thrusting. That's why I said I hate the name, because I think it should be hip lift or bridge, because thrust is like just freaking throw yourself up there. And that's how most people do it. When I watch most people do it, it's an uncontrolled extension of the hips with probably far too much of it coming from the lumbar spine. Brett Contreras popularized it, the glutes guy, because he, was trying to develop women's glutes. That was where it came from. And it really caught on. And the reason it caught on is because any idiot can do 405 pounds. That's what made it attractive, because it was one of those exercises that you could load a shitload of weight on there and you put them. I tried it. I remember I first tried it and I thought, this exercise sucks. It is incredibly uncomfortable. Just the position of the bar was not comfortable, whether it was, getting you in your iliac crest or whether it was hurting your abdominal wall or whatever it was just not comfortable. I couldn't imagine trying to do it with 400 pounds, or why anybody would want to try to do it with 400 pounds.
All in the name of glutes.
All in the name of glutes. But yet I love the unilateral version of that exercise. The problem with the unilateral version is it's not as easy to load. You can't get, we've really worked on trying to figure out how to load it with, with sandbags and with different methods. Elsbeth Vino had a great, she did it. She had made a belt that you could put a plate on. And, there was, people were always trying to figure out, once you get good at it, how do you make it harder? And the opposite of it was, you'd look at, whatever, 125-pound women doing 315 on the floor. And you think, okay, it's probably not a real good exercise, because, if somebody who weighs 125 can, is using 315 pounds, we need to find a better exercise, because it can't be good for you from a musculoskeletal standpoint in terms of where that bar is resting and the need. People saying, oh, you can buy a bar pad on Amazon. I think if you need a bar pad, that probably tells you it's not the best choice of an exercise.
I'll tell you what, at Lifetime, first of all, they improvise a lot. They use the Smith machine. So there's always a blue pad, an Eric's pad by the Smith machine. Then people use them on platforms. They use regular barbells, but then they take 3 kettlebells and they put it behind the plyo box, the padded plyo box, because they use the padded plyo box. They put their shoulders on that, but then it slides. So then they have to it's a mess. It's a complete mess. And true story, no lie, right before Thanksgiving, I had a woman who, somebody was like, hey, that woman got hurt, and she was doing it, and she hurt her back, and she said her chiropractor eventually said that she misaligned her pelvis doing the exercise. I originally, to what you said, I said, you probably were using your lumbar spine. She couldn't move. We had to get her down. So it was, it can be, if it's not done right, like you said, there's too much weight on there. It could be dangerous.
Yeah, no, it's funny. It is not a good exercise. To me, it's the classic internet exercise. It's the life cereal. Some stuff it's supposed to be good for you, right? Somebody saw it and somebody else said, oh, this is great glute exercise. And then everybody else said, this is a great glute exercise. And then it's Emperor's New Clothes, right? No one wanted to look and be like, no, that sucks. It kills your hips. It's like, they're like, oh yeah, no, it's really good. I love it. It's like, no, but it sucks.
I will say the benches that Brett invented, with the belt and, kind of coming up, does make life easy for that.
I think that's one of the guys said, oh, if you buy the Brett Contreras bench and you buy the big plates and you buy the pad, and I'm like, you got to buy an awful lot of shit to set up an exercise when you think, if I could put my shoulders on the bench and a sandbag and do it single leg and probably get a lot of benefit. Although we did buy a booty sprout. I tried it, I have to admit. Jeff Lavecchio, I think, convinced me on one of his posts to buy a booty sprout. And I that's bands. I couldn't get anybody in the staff to really buy into it. I left it out there. I told people to try it, because that's one of my experiment, is that I buy something and leave it around. And if it doesn't get used, that tells me something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Coach, going to Carmen Bot now. She thought my rise on the Achilles ruptures. By the way, she meant NFL, CFL. She clarified later, but over specialization in linear speed, and she wrote in parentheses, tendons like more variety, not enough slow strength work for tendon health, poor nutrition, mismatching capacity of tissue and horsepower of athletes. Can you just expand on? I don't even know if completely what she meant by slow strength, but I know you've talked about the. And I asked you, hey, why would why can you do this sled hard, heavy, slow pushing, and you're okay with that, but not the sprinting piece of it. And so you like the slow work. Is that what you would do for slow strength work? Do you feel like that's where did you interpret
I
it like that?
think she was talking about, and I didn't get her to clarify. I think she was talking more about calf raise type stuff
Okay.
and more direct tendon stress. So I think that's where she was going with that, but I'm not sure because I did ask her. I said, "Do you do direct calf work?" Because it's very interesting. I've only had that I can think of one Achilles rupture in a young, healthy athlete. And that was a young woman who was playing squash at Dartmouth and ruptured her Achilles. I've never seen it other than that. And we don't do any direct lower leg work at all. We've started to do a little bit because as I started to look kind of into some of the David Gray stuff and started to think, okay, maybe we're missing the boat on not doing calf raises. When I started to look at what some people were doing in ACL rehab, I said, oh, maybe we're missing the boat and not doing calf raises. But I look at it and think, we've gone a really long time without an Achilles tear. And we are doing a lot of linear sprinting. It's the only kind of sprinting that we really do. But the one thing, as you read through the thread, we're always doing multi-directional plyos. So we always hop. We always hop laterally. We always hop medially. We always hop on diagonals. So in that way, although we're not doing conventional strength training for the lower leg, we're doing a lot of landing type work from a lot of different patterns. So I think we kind of check Carmen's boxes, but we check it unintentionally. We're not doing it. Our intent is not to do it with the idea, oh, we're preventing Achilles injuries. I think we're looking at it more from the probably knee injury prevention perspective than the Achilles perspective. Maybe the Achilles is just simply a carryover.
Yeah, we talked about this though with the knee rehab, and I could have sworn you said you were looking into getting calf machines or
Yeah, well, we
possibly.
definitely I started like with Mark, I started doing calf work because there was most of the ACL people that I was following were doing direct calf work. And I thought, okay, let's do some direct calf work. Some of those people are doing direct soleus work, seated calf raise kind of stuff. And I thought, let's leave no stone unturned, at least in the rehab process. So that's what we did.
Yeah, I've been working on plantar fasciitis on the left foot. My therapist Tyler Crooks, he had me doing early on a really deep stretch, and then straight leg, like where almost like I'm on a curb or a stair, right? And the left leg is getting a really deep stretch. Then I bend my knee, then I kind of go into an isometric contraction of about 20 to 30%. It's brutal, but really, he was talking a lot about the Achilles and kind of really where the Achilles meets the calf muscles as well, that kind of musculotendinous junction, strengthening that as well. And it's kind of helped tremendously. But
Well, and if you look, that's what we were kind of playing around today, actually, at the gym with. Some people call it like spring ankle series, which is kind of like, I think, a triphasic. Some of those guys are playing around with stuff, but they're doing more things on their toes. Split squat, not up on their toes, but sort of ball the foot on, we were using the little DC blocks today and playing with split squats with the ball of the foot up, because now you're forcing that calf to work to hold you up. And that David Gray did an in-service for us on Tuesday, and he was just talking about the idea of engaging the foot. And we were like, should we be engaging the foot more? So we were having that discussion today, and I don't think we answered the question today, but I think we continued to sort of explore the question.
Yeah, it's funny how I think back and 20 years, close to 20 years ago, close to 20, maybe 17, 18, where really the barefoot thing was super popular, but we were looking at things like Todd Wright's lecture at Perform Better every year was about the foot, right? And we've been talking about this. The podcast is, 16, 17 years old. We've been talking about this from day one on that as well. So it's like a continuing journey with the foot.
Yep, exactly. I think, and it always comes back to the fact that we were just talking about that today in terms of maybe we need to warm up barefoot. I've always been resistant to it because I'm a big logistics guy, and I hate the idea of having, shoes off, shoes on, blah, 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 blah. But it does. I mean, it makes sense, right? When you think about the foot and the interaction with the ground. I mean, it is literally your interface with the ground, right?
Yeah.
Nothing else when you're running, jumping, nothing else is touching the ground.
Yeah.
So
Good
I can
stuff.
remember one of those, an old Gary Gray seminar was called When the Foot Hits the Ground.
Yeah. There you go. All right, Coach, I'll let you go. Thanks for doing this, and we will talk to you next time.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
Welcome to Naamly's Maximizing the Member Experience segment. My name is Sumit Seth, and I'm the co-founder of Naamly. When it comes to gym ownership, it's the little things that make a big difference. Little hinges move big doors. Today, we're diving into the world of little amenities, those thoughtful touches that can turn your gym into a member's haven and supercharge your retention rates, referrals, and reviews. Imagine this scenario. A new member walks into your gym ready to kickstart their fitness journey. They've heard great things about your place, but what really blows them away are the little extras you've peppered in because you thought it through. First up, the bathroom. It's not just clean, it's a mini spa retreat. Alongside the basics, you've provided extra deodorant, a lifesaver for those who forget to pack their own or simply need a mid-workout refresh. It's those small touches that make members feel like you're thinking about their comfort and convenience. The result? Happy members who keep coming back. But it doesn't stop there. You've installed a phone charging station, a little oasis for those who are running low on battery but high on motivation. They can juice up their devices while they pump up those biceps. It's a simple addition that members appreciate and remember when they're deciding where to work out. They're just not recharging their phones. They're recharging their loyalty to your gym. Now let's talk about the importance of anticipating your members' needs. It's like being one step ahead in a dance. You've got the rhythm and your members are loving the moves. What other little amenities can you introduce to up your game? Here are a few. Towel service. Instead of making your members lug around sweaty towels, provide fresh, clean ones. It's a small expense that pays off in terms of comfort and hygiene. Hydration stations. Install water fountains with bottle filling features. Members can easily refill their bottles, reduce plastic weight, and show your commitment to sustainability. Fitness mats and accessories. Offer free fitness mats, foam rollers, or resistance bands. Members can use them during their workouts, and it's one less thing to remember. Bring them home. Nutritional snacks. Set up a small snack station with healthy post-workout options. A banana or some nuts can be a lifesaver for someone who skipped breakfast. Wi-Fi. Ensure your gym has fast and reliable Wi-Fi, guys. Members can stream workout playlists, watch tutorials, and most importantly, share their progress on social media. Those little amenities can turn your gyms into a magnet for members. Why? Because they enhance the overall experience, showing that you're not just in the business of fitness, but in the business of making your members' lives easier and more enjoyable. The benefits go beyond member satisfaction. Better retention. Members are more likely to stick around when they feel valued and appreciated. These thoughtful amenities make your gym a place they can't bear to leave. More referrals. Happy members become your best marketing team. They're eagerly recommending your gym to their friends and family, helping you grow your community. Glowing reviews. When members experience your gym's little extras, they're more likely to leave positive reviews online. This boosts your reputation and attracts even more fitness enthusiasts. Healthier and happier members. When your gym caters to members' comfort and convenience, they're more likely to stick to their fitness routine. The little extras like a convenient water station or that extra towel can make the difference between a successful workout and a lackluster one. Over time, these positive experiences contribute to healthier, happier, and more motivated members who are achieving their fitness goals. And isn't that your goal also? To leave the world with more happy and healthier members and build that community? There you go. It's proper alignment. So don't underestimate the power of little amenities. They're the secret sauce to winning over your members, ensuring they keep coming back, bringing their friends, and singing your gym's praises online. It's the little things that lead to big success. Like I said, little hinges move big doors. So go ahead, give your gym that extra edge, one thoughtful amenity at a time. And check out Naamly and put in the referral code StrengthCoach to give us a try for full 30 days with no strings attached. This is Sumit, co-founder of Naamly. Till next time. Bye.
All right, guys, now it's time for the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment, brought to you by AG1 by Athletic Greens, 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/strengthcoach. All right, today I got on my friend John Graham. He's the Senior Network Administrator for Fitness and Performance at St. Luke's University Health Network in Pennsylvania. Had John on for episode 335. So not that long ago, a little bit after Aaron and Rob got married over in Newport. John and I attended that wedding. So we were talking about it there. And then that led to him coming onto this episode. And then the book came out. So, but I'm going to talk about the book in a second, but I just want to tell you a little bit more about John. He served as an adjunct professor at multiple colleges and universities. He is a fellow of the National Strength and Conditioning Association, certified strength and conditioning specialist, and a registered strength and conditioning coach. He has a new book out called Metabolic Training, the ultimate guide to the ultimate workout. John, thanks for doing this, bud.
Anthony, always a pleasure, bud. It's great to hang out with you, spend an hour talking, and we could probably spend hours talking together.
Yeah.
It's always good to have an hour to hang out with you and talk, and always great to see you at the conferences, and love all the stuff you're doing for the over 50 training. You know, all of us over 50 guys need to keep working at it and keep doing it and prove to these 20-year-olds we can still hang with them.
Absolutely, man. I got a couple guys I train that I'm looking at some of your programs, and we're going to talk about today that I'm like, this will be nice to kind of mix it up and get these guys moving around a little bit. So let's talk about it, because we hear about this. You know, we've heard the term metabolic training a lot, but sometimes, as you know, these terms can get kind of muddled when people are trying to define them, or when they interpret what it might be. So just define metabolic training for us, John, so we could start to kind of make sure we're all on the same page here.
Sure. Metabolic training is the use of strength training, and I guess I would call them calisthenic type exercises, all combined into blocks of time where you're exercising for, let's say, anywhere from 30 to 50 seconds, but resting and recovering from 30 to 10 seconds, depending on your level of intensity, depending on your level of fitness, and depending on what the goal and objective of the workout is.
Cool. In the book, you did define it as there was a focus on metabolism. Can you expand a little bit on that statement, focus on metabolism?
Sure. So one of the key things that we look at with metabolic workouts is people are very scrunched for time these days and have a hard time figuring out how do I get enough time in my day to be able to do a workout. So the real focus behind this program, which I know we're going to talk about later on in this, is really making sure that the person's metabolic effect of a training session remains in existence long after the workout is completed. So our goal is to burn more calories per unit of time by exercising more consistently with less rest and recovery. And then in addition to that, making sure that post-workout, our metabolic levels stay elevated so we continue to burn calories past that workout period. And our goal is up to as much as 24 hours, as you know, with EPOC.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, can we talk about really, if we just take this, and I just want to differentiate. Some people might say, hey, is this just circuit training or is this just HIIT, high intensity interval training? Can you just talk about maybe the difference between what we're looking for here?
Sure. So, the big difference I think with it is that we're combining a combination of cardiovascular type exercises with strength training, using implements, not just using free weights, but using implements, incorporating activities in that would involve body weight, plyometric type exercises, but also things like kettlebells, dumbbells, bands, making sure we're using heavy ropes, pushing sleds, doing activities that really revolve around using a variety of implements and devices, but also simplifying it down to, hey, if I'm in my hotel room and all I got is my body weight, can I do a metabolic workout in my hotel room while I'm on vacation or things along that line? So the idea is to provide a workout plan that really allows you to use a lot of implements, or a workout plan that usually allows you to do things with just your body weight. So I think where the real difference is, it's not necessarily focused on always being in a maximum heart rate or the highest heart rate possible, but really focusing on being in a heart rate zone that's going to allow you to sustain the activity for a prolonged period of time and then maximize the amount of calories you're spending during that period.
John, I think a lot of people might say, hey, this sounds like it's really mostly, just from the sound of it, for fat loss. Can you just kind of defend or talk about the other, really, what else is this good for?
Sure. Well, obviously, muscle development is going to be a critical part of this because we are using weighted implements in a large majority of these metabolic training sessions. And because of the amount of time you're spending doing those activities, even if you're using resistances and weights that might be lighter than you might typically use for a lower repetition set, the benefit is if I'm doing 20 repetitions with 25-pound dumbbells, I'm pushing out 500 pounds of total workload. So I'm getting a maximum amount of muscle development in that period of time. That's better than doing, 100 pounds for 5 reps, because we're really working hard at getting those muscles activated, maintaining that muscle function and performance for a period of time, but also maximizing the development of those muscles by giving such large volume to it.
Yeah, one thing I feel like when I look at, one thing that came to mind just going over the book and looking at the programs and really kind of looking at the sections was, I think it gives you a lot of flexibility as to, when you work with people, anybody that really trains people in person, knows so many times they're coming in, John, I couldn't sleep last night. Here's what I had to, John, my kid was sick. I'm not feeling well. Or, I'm feeling a little under the weather. I'm fine, but I'm feeling a little under the weather. Things change so rapidly. And if you work in a gym that's not your own, a lot of times too, you might not have access to something. That's where I thought this book really shined, was the flexibility to be able to change and to adapt. Take this system. There's so many different implements in there. Was that one of the goals when you were writing this?
Absolutely. I think really what Anthony, where this came out of, to be honest with you, in writing this book was during COVID, a lot of the gyms were closed. People didn't have access to equipment. Some people, bought equipment early on when COVID started. And then some people found they couldn't, even get equipment. I mean, the equipment vendors were having a hard time keeping people supplied with the equipment available. So I got a lot of people who are our clients. We had 6,000 clients at our St. Luke's Fitness and Sports Performance Centers calling me up and saying, "Hey, John, what do I do? I'm stuck. The gyms are closed. What am I going to do right now?" So we went actually on Zoom and Microsoft Teams and started putting programs together for people. And then the calls came in and said, "Look, I don't have dumbbells at home. I don't have this stuff at home. What do I do?" So we taught them, "Hey, fill up 2-gallon jugs with water and jump on, and we'll do this workout together." So I really started teaching these workouts early on with nothing more than gallon jugs or a pair of dumbbells in my hands to get people to understand, hey, we can get great quality workouts. What came out of it was we were getting phone calls from people saying, hey, they thought they were getting in better shape than they ever had been. And part of the reason behind it is with a metabolic workout, because it's an engaging workout that you do continuously with very little rest in between, you're not seeing people go on their cell phones. They're not jumping on their cell phones or doing anything like that. So consequently, they're staying active the whole time and doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they're not getting interrupted. So they're not seeing their heart rate drop. They're not seeing their intensity of workout going down. They're maintaining that performance the entire time for the entire 30 to 60-minute workout.
John, when you talk about that, like I watched one of your videos, the St. Luke's videos of a full workout. And as I'm watching this and seeing you just kind of do the little march, and I saw it in some of the programs. So can you just talk to that piece that you were just talking about? They're always moving.
Right.
Are you looking for them to your most advanced people in terms of, okay, they're going to wear a heart rate, they're most compliant advanced people. If we're looking at heart rate from a zone perspective, what are we looking at? Like a lot of zone 3 in this and then going down to zone 1, zone 3, zone 1, but always kind of, or is it 4 and 2? How do you just talk to me about the intensity here with this?
Right. So the intensity really varies depending on the individual too. So that's the key thing that you have to really stress here. So going back to what you were saying about marching. So our beginners, when we're doing some of these intervals, if I say jog in place or do jumping jacks or burpees or jump rope, some of our beginners are walking in place because they're just getting started with fitness. So for them to do 30 seconds of walking in place is as challenging for them from a fitness side of things as it might be for someone who's at an advanced level doing 30 seconds of burpees, as an example. So we're really trying to teach people that, hey, whatever workload you can work at, let's do this. And some of the videos we made at St. Luke's, we made a video where we had a beginner, intermediate, and advanced clock sitting on the left-hand side. So people who were beginners knew when they were at what they should be doing, and people who were at the advanced knew what they should be doing. And the way the book is structured is it really identifies those 3 levels of beginner, intermediate, and advanced. The next question that's going to come out of that is, well, how do you define a beginner? How do you define an intermediate? And how do you define an advanced? Well, the way we defined a beginner was if you've been exercising for 0 to 3 months and just really getting into the program consistently, then that would classify you more in the beginner class. And then if you've been doing it for 3 to 6 months consistently now, key word there is consistently, then we're going to say you're more at an intermediate level. And then once you've been doing it for 6 months consecutively, then we're looking at more of the advanced level. The book is really set up in a way where I identify weights that you might want to use as a beginner, intermediate, or advanced for each one of these workouts, as well as the amount of time you want to spend or the amount of repetitions you want to do in each one of the workouts.
What, like from the perspective, if you look in the book, without really looking at the work, somebody might look and be like, John, I don't have 6 hours. It's actually the opposite. It's just
Right.
A lot of exercises. It's almost similar. I'm not like when I first saw it, I thought 1x20, right? The
Right.
1x20 program, right? Like you had a boatload, not including the warm up, obviously, but a lot of exercises, and it was 1 set. And then the intermediate one went on to 2 sets, but it seemed very similar to a 1x20 idea. Am I right?
Correct. Absolutely. So I'll give you a great example of when we're doing a workout at our fitness centers and how we're doing it. I might set up 40 stations, and what we're going to do is we're going to tell everybody we're going to go for 50 seconds, and we're going to take about a 10 to 15 second recovery in between each exercise. So we got 40 exercises. The idea is that it's going to take a minute per exercise. So we're looking at a full 40 minutes of circuit work before we get into some other things that we're going to do as a part of the workout to make up the full hour. So as an example, I'll say we're going to do 50 seconds at a station. We start the exercise. The more advanced people are going to probably use the heavier weights that are set up at each station. They're going to do the full 50 seconds. Our intermediates are going to use probably the moderate level weights or the medium level weights at that station, and they're going to do it for a full 40 seconds and rest for 10. And then our beginners are going to go for more like a 30 and 20. So they're going to be doing it for less time with lighter weights than maybe the more intermediate and advanced participants are going to use. The idea is that I could have somebody literally right next to a 60-year-old who's just getting started with a fitness program right next to a 25-year-old triathlete, and they can be working side by side and doing the exercises and still both be getting the effective workout they're looking for.
John, we talk about, and you talk about this in the book, this idea about concurrent training, right? And this is very, there's some strength and power and aerobic methodologies involved, and there can be what's called, right, the interference effect. So if we're trying to get stronger and we're doing, let's say we're doing too much aerobic work, they say it can interfere with the strength, and maybe vice versa. But I wanted to ask you, what do you feel about that? And then, like, in this class, I guess you can solve it by saying, hey, you're going to do 5 reps. You're trying to get strength, right? And we're pick up some heavier weights, as opposed to somebody maybe who is a beginner who's not looking for that. How do you answer to the interference effect and this idea about strength and power and aerobic goals not really working well together?
Well, I think the basic way I can answer that question and make it really simple is, let's say we're doing a kettlebell walk, and I got someone who is really focusing on, they want to get stronger, more powerful for sport performance, or they want to try to make themselves a better athlete. Let's say I'm working with a wrestler, an MMA fighter who's in our class. And then I also have a person who's trying to burn fat. So how would I go about changing the workout intensity for that individual? Well, I may give the person who is that elite athlete, who is the wrestler or MMA fighter, 28, 36 pound 28 or 36 kilogram kettlebells. And the individual who's looking just for fat burning, we may hand them 25-pound dumbbells. So now the intensity of exercise is going to be much greater. The person who's moving those 36 kilogram kettlebells is probably going to be really pushing their heart rate up, getting closer to a maximal level like they would if they were in a wrestling match or an activity that's a higher intensity. Whereas that person who's carrying those 25-pound dumbbells, they're keeping it at a more sustained level. Their heart rate's going to stay lower. They're going to get a cardiovascular fitness out of it, as well as a metabolic effect out of it, because they're going to be getting their heart rate up while they're also increasing strength.
Awesome. Joe, we talked a little earlier about epoch,
Right.
but let's just define that for people first. Can you just define what you mean by epoch and what its advantages are?
Right. So epoch is the thought process that post-exercise, if you're doing a higher intensity workout or a metabolic type workout, your body's going to basically continue to burn or be more efficient at burning calories and utilizing energy more efficiently post-workout, as opposed to doing other workouts where maybe the intensity is lower. So the idea behind a metabolic workout and the whole focus behind what we're trying to teach with this type of training is really the metabolic effect being 24 hours post-exercise. And the other benefit is, as you well know, Anthony, the guidelines now are we want to be doing 30 to 60 minutes of exercise every single day, five to 7 days a week, to get maximum benefits out of a fitness program. So if I'm doing a metabolic workout, I can do a metabolic workout every single day. Whereas if I'm doing higher intensity weight training necessarily with barbells or Olympic lifts, I'm going to probably need recovery days from those types of lifts. And what we do in a lot of cases is we complement those type of lifting workouts with doing a metabolic workout on the next day, so they get the maximum benefit out of training effectively and getting stronger and better every single day. But by the same token, they're not having to load their spine the same way every day, or they're not having to load their body the same way and work at the same workout intensity. So we may be doing hang cleans squats one day and then turn around and run a metabolic workout with a group of athletes the next day. What I found with doing this, and we've been doing this with a lot of our athletic teams, particularly at the high school levels now, is by training athletes this way, what we were able to do was get them to train at higher workloads, higher intensities during the off-season months, so that as we got into the in-season programs, these kids were already in phenomenal physical condition. And what we started seeing was a great reduction in the number of injuries that were occurring because of this type of training. The other benefit is in a lot of cases now, we go into high school weight rooms, coaches are saying, hey, you got 45 minutes to get my kids in and out, or you got 30 minutes. So if I got 30 minutes, and we're doing typical traditional squats where 4 kids are rotating on a squat, in 30 minutes, we might get 4 sets of squats in. Now I'm going in a weight room and we're giving kids, weight plates. And, we've even had workouts where we give them 25 or 45 pound weight plates, depending on their level of fitness. And they're holding a 25 and 50, 45 pound weight plate. And we're doing an entire workout with those weight plates in their hands. That's really phenomenal. And the kids tell me that's a harder workout than when we lift weights or when we do the traditional strength training program.
Yeah. John, expand on this idea though. I want to, because we have a lot of high school and, coaches here, and this idea, and even college. What are so you're giving them a program to do in the off season? Or are you working with them, or what's the program look like in the off season that's getting them to, come in this phenomenal shape?
Right. So typically in the off season, most high school programs around here right now are really structuring their workouts. And this is the way I'm seeing a lot of the high schools wanting to do it. Nobody wants to be in the weight room on Fridays anymore because they feel like the kids aren't going to show up on a Friday. So they're scheduling it on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. And then, the other days of the week, they're trying to figure out, do we do like team type activities, speed, agility, quickness, those kinds of things. So on a Wednesday, we might throw in speed, agility, quickness. What I started talking to the coaches about was, okay, great. Here's what we're going to do. On a Friday, we'll have a team building session, and we're going to take a 25 or a 45 pound weight plate. Younger kids, less developed kids are going to take the 25, even if they have to go even lighter in some cases down to a 10 pound plate. We're going to go out in the gym area with all those weight plates in our hands, or we go out. Sometimes we go out in the middle of the field. We go out to a field depending on how the weather is that particular day. And what we'll do is we'll do overhead squats. We'll do regular squats, holding the weight plate against our chest. We'll do lunges, forward, side, backward lunges. We'll do, Olympic type lifts with them. We'll have them do some snatches overhead with the weight plate in their hands. And then we'll do things like chest press, rows, upright rows with the weight plate, front raises, bicep curls, overhead triceps. So we're doing a whole plethora of exercises with them in a span of 30 to 45 minutes. These kids are getting a great workout. They're learning to control a weighted implement in their hands while they're doing it. So they're working on grip strength as well as also getting stronger from the standpoint of using the larger muscle groups. And in addition to that, we're getting rotational movement patterns in. So we're developing core muscles. We're teaching them to move dynamically as well. So we're reducing the risk of developing injuries like ACL injuries while we're doing this. So we're getting those traditional movements in the weight room, which primarily, as you well know, function in more of the sagittal plane, and combining that with frontal plane and transverse movements with doing these metabolic type workouts.
Awesome. So yeah, you did say in the book, serious or competitive athletes can complement their training. My original question was, John, explain that, which you're explaining it now, but will you ever do like a block of metabolic training, or do you ever do these in blocks, or is this more of a, hey, Monday's going to be a heavy day, Tuesday will be some metabolic training, as well as Thursday or whatever the program might be. But is that how you're doing it normally, is kind of combining alternating days, or will you do a whole block of this stuff?
So we have stations now. We're going to the weight room, and what we'll do is we'll put 5 stations together. So station 1 might be that they're doing, let's say, a barbell squat with a front lunge and let's say a straight leg deadlift. Okay. And they're doing that in sequence. So they'll do the squats first. And then they'll do the straight leg deadlifts, and then they'll do the lunge. Okay. So they'll do that in a circuit. And what they're doing is I'll set the clock and I'll say, okay, guys, we're going for 50 seconds. So they'll grab the barbell. They'll put the barbell on their back. The guys who are doing the squat, the lunges and the straight leg deadlifts will have their weights in hand. And I'll say, go. They're going to go for 50 straight seconds of doing consistent repetitions. And at the end of 50 seconds, I'll say rest. They rotate. I give them a short period of time to recover, and then we go again. benefit of doing that is I can have 20 or 30 kids in the weight room doing 6 different or 7 different blocks of exercise, and we're out of there in 45 minutes at max.
Can that be a little bit, I guess once you get it going, just explaining all these different exercises seems like it's going to be the most time intensive piece of the whole thing.
Well, ironically, it's funny you say that because most of these exercises are part of their general programs anyways. All
Okay.
we're doing now is just putting them into a block where they're doing them all in one day as opposed to doing them in multiple days. So, for example, on Monday we might traditionally, let's say, just for argument's sake, do a upper body workout. On Tuesday we might do a lower body workout, and on Thursdays we might do a total body where they do their entire body together. So what I'm doing on Friday now is I'm doing that metabolic workout, but it's more of a total body metabolic workout. So they're combining upper and lower extremity together. We've also been doing it now where we're using it in such a way that on a Friday, we'll do the total body workout. On Monday, we'll do the total body workout. And then on Tuesdays, we're going to do upper. And then Thursdays, we might do lower. And depending on what the coaches tell me about how the kids are recovering, we'll mix it around. We'll change it up even a little bit more. We might say Tuesdays and Fridays are these metabolic workouts. Monday and Thursdays are our traditional weight training workouts. What we're finding with the kids, we're getting better overall conditioned kids. We're getting kids that are in better shape. They're not necessarily putting on as much body weight, but they're putting on more muscle mass. So the key thing that I want to stress to you is we're not looking at kids gaining a large amount of weight that may be unproductive weight, at least from a standpoint of performance. They're not gaining a lot of excess body fat because a lot of guys, for traditionally with football, they think, hey, I got to put on 20 to 30 pounds before next football season. What we're saying is let's put on 15 pounds of productive weight and have you go out there and play at a higher level of fitness and also conditioning. 2 things have happened. We've seen a great reduction in injuries, number one. And number 2, we're seeing better performances later in the game because kids aren't fatiguing and the guys on the other team are cramping up and everybody's taking them off the field because they got cramps. So we're able to perform at a much higher level and maintain that performance throughout the entire game.
John, we talk a lot on the podcast about speed. Coach Boyle talks a lot about speed, and he has certainly a little bit more traditional approach of, even tweeted out the other day about it's not that hard, guys. We're making this hard. It's a warm up, it's power, jump, throw, sprint, right? And then strength training, right? So talk to me about where that fits in, where some of the power, the plyometric or speed work fits into this, because obviously you can't always do that on those days. In the metabolic training, it's gonna be pretty taxing while they're doing it, right? So you don't want to be doing speed work in the middle of a metabolic workout. So talk to me about where you put that in.
Well, it's funny you say that because we can actually put it in the metabolic workout. So, for example, I might have one station going back to what I just went through with you. So let's say we do squats with dumbbells in our hands. So for argument's sake, we're going to do dumbbell squats and then the next exercise right next to it is we're going to have a speed agility ladder. So we're going to do some, let's say, icky shuffle on that. And then the third station might be cone hops. So we would go from doing an explosive power exercise with the cone hops to doing a traditional strength core exercise with doing the dumbbell squats to then doing an agility exercise with the agility ladder. So now you've actually combined strength, agility, and power and strength all in one block, and actually have people doing that through the whole station. I actually, believe it or not, have incorporated our power and our agility into our warm-ups now. So we'll do the traditional warm-up where we do the dynamic warm-ups along with the mobility exercises, get the workout started that way, go right into doing cone hops and agility ladders. And we've even done this with one of our high schools. They don't have a gym available. So we've started using the cafeteria, because they have a flooring in that cafeteria that really allows for impact. So we'll go from doing the mobility stuff to the dynamic warm-up to explosive power stuff with cone hops, then to an agility ladder. And then we're going right into the weight room and doing our weight training exercises. So we're incorporating that stuff almost on a daily basis into the workouts for the kids. And the coaches said to me, this is really great the way you're doing it because it's done in a very time efficient manner. We're getting the kids through the weights quick, but we're also working on some of this explosive speed oriented stuff. So we're doing those type 2B muscle fiber type training exercises. Explain how, this really helps us during the season. And I said, well, it's a simple thought process. During the season, you've got to be explosive and use power every single day in practice, right? So if you're not doing it every day in some format, when it comes to what you're doing with your basic training as well, how do you go from an off-season training program where all you've done is lifted weights in the weight room, done squats and cleans and stuff like that, and now you have to transform that under a performance level out in the field, but you've done nothing with your feet to allow you to do that. And what I find with a lot of kids is they don't know how to push off the ball of their foot once they get out of the weight room, when they've been in the weight room for 4 months and they haven't done any of these activities. So now if they get them to transfer that power in an explosive manner and athletic performance isn't going to be there.
Yeah. John, what are your thoughts on even kind of combining, even in the off season, some of the like big strength and power stuff, and then finishing with some almost metabolic circuits? Would that be kind of the best of both worlds if we knew we had to get through some of those bigger movements that, are going to be required by coaches, et cetera?
Absolutely. And that's what I do. It's funny that you said that because some days, we'll go in and every coach has a different perspective on what they want to do. The old school guys that, happen to fit into my age group, not your age group, you're still too young for that. But the guys that fit into my age group that have that traditional mentality out there with what they want to do, the goal is in our world is we have to make sure that we're kind of meeting the goals and objectives of the coaches and also respect what they want. So how do we take what they want and make it functionally effective for ensuring that our athletes are improving performance, but also resisting injury? Because one of the key things, particularly in high school and youth programs, is if you're going to be successful as a coach, you got to keep your best players on the field. You got to have the Jimmys and the Joes out there. So if kids are constantly getting injured and not being able to play, that's a big issue. One of the teams I've had the fortunate to work with, and they're actually in the state finals tomorrow, is Emmaus Field Hockey. I've been with them for 30 years, and they're going for their 14th state title tomorrow. The benefit is with the coach, that coach really works with me on a year-round basis to ensure that these kids are performance-based and functionally based when it comes to their training so that they're ready to play the full game, the full time, every single game. What our goal, number one goal is, she doesn't have anybody getting injured. That's the key. Keeping her best players out in that field. She loses one of her star players. It's pretty hard to go out and win a championship when you're losing one of your star players later in the season. So we're really focusing on the idea of how do we keep them healthy, strong, fit, and how do we keep them so that they can last the entire game? Because most injuries occur when kids are tired or fatigued.
John, I do want to not throw you under the bus or put you on the spot, but you mentioned the B word before. So Coach Boyle might, he might unfriend you on Facebook.
Okay.
The burpee, right?
Yeah.
That's his worst nightmare, right? And we can like, I think in general it's a general recommendation. He always says it's the world's worst exercise, whatever. But can you just talk about you not defending the burpee, but is there a way that you're teaching that you're talking to people about, that you're warning them about with the burpee? Because we know that the burpees, they can get out of hand and the form can be horrible, especially with young kids. Talk to me about your John Graham's defense of the burpee.
Well, I think the most important thing is I wouldn't say we use. So I talk to people and they tell me they did like 150 or 300 burpees in a class. And I like, if you're going to do 150 to 300 burpees, there's no way you're doing them all well. And, in retrospect, as to be fair to burpees, if I do any exercise 150 to 300 times, I'm probably going to end up doing something bad to myself because none of them are going to be done well because I'm trying to race through getting 150 to 300 done. What the key is with burpees is we teach the importance of doing it with good form and good technique. So in a 50-second block, I may only do 10 burpees. So, and I might do burpees 2 or 3 times in an entire workout. So if I'm getting 10 burpees and I'm doing 2 blocks of it, I'm going to do 20 total burpees in a workout. Where people get in trouble with burpees is doing 150 to 300 of them. Of course, their technique's going to look crappy and they're going to do it poorly. I always talk to people, they tell me about this 100 repetitions with bench press or 100 repetitions with bicep curls, where you do 100 consecutive repetitions with those movements or squats. Of course, anytime you're doing something 100 times, you're going to start to have poor technique and it's not going to look good. It's one of the biggest pet peeves I have with doing certain core movements because, people do them for 40 or 50 repetitions. Of course, it's going to start to look, kind of shabby by the end of the repetition volume. So I think where burpees get a bad rap is that people's form are so bad because they do so many of them and they're so heavily laid into a program. What we do is we put them in small blocks for short periods of time in a program. People are doing really good form with them. And if you look at some of my videos when I'm doing them, you can see that I'm doing them pretty well, and I wouldn't exactly classify myself as a burpee king. So I think they can be done well. And I think the most important thing, which I know Mike is a huge proponent of, is proper coaching. You got to coach it well, and you got to make sure you demonstrate it well and talk through it. And when you see somebody doing it improperly, correct them. Don't just let them keep going in that direction.
Yeah.
It's the biggest pet peeve I have with certain types of training programs out there. I won't get into specifics, but a lot of the reason injuries occur in certain programs out there has more to do with volume than it does with the exercises themselves. A lot of people are critical of the exercise. It's not the exercise, it's the volume of them and the technique that's being taught to do them.
Sure. And I guess because my next kind of in defense of was, you talk a little bit in your core section about some sit-ups and crunches. So you're really trying to, the answer I'm assuming will be the same. You're going to keep the volume low and really focus on technique on that.
Exactly. And work on really contracting the muscles appropriately, doing the right things. I mean, obviously I'm a huge believer in doing the plank series and working with a lot of the functional movements in the plank series, but we'll throw crunches in, and we'll do them with our legs up, weight plate behind our head, and we're doing them slow with good form and good technique, chin back, eyes looking at the ceiling, really concentrating on squeezing the muscles. And, the big thing is when you're doing things the right way, what I like about our program is we can teach metabolic classes 5 days a week, which I personally teach 5 classes a week, and do the other exercises. I still lift weights. I still run, still do half marathons and things like that. I ran a full marathon and I did metabolic training through that entire process of training for those events. The key thing is doing it as a complement to everything else that you're doing and making sure that you're maximizing the performance level. What I found with doing metabolic training was it made me stronger to do the other things that I was doing. And what we find with whether it be someone who's trying to lose fat, someone who's trying to gain muscle mass, someone who's trying to enhance sports performance, big group that we do metabolic training with is our tactical guys, our SWAT guys, our firefighters, those people. And, a perfect example with firefighters is we got our firefighters in pulling on a weighted sled where they have to pull a rope. Well, what are they simulating? They're simulating pulling out a fire hose, which a lot of these guys get hurt doing because they don't have the strength or the stamina to be able to pull a fire hose out and get it to the fire where they need it.
John, coach us on coaching these programs. What are we warn us about some of the things? My first look at this is sometimes when we do things for time, we gotta either slow people down or make sure. Coach us on, like, what are some of the highlights that you want to say? Listen, when you're coaching this stuff, look out for A, B, and C.
Right. So I think the most important thing is when you're doing these workouts, if you're doing it for time, let's say 50 seconds. So the goal isn't to see how many repetitions I can do in 50 seconds. The goal is to see how many good repetitions I can do in 50 seconds. That's the key word. So we're really focusing on form and technique. So if I'm the coach who's running this metabolic class, my number one goal is to make sure everybody in the room is doing the exercises correctly, not necessarily are you doing it for the maximum amount of time. Now, that being said, we are trying to increase some of the intensity of the exercise when we do body weight stuff. So if I'm doing speed squats and I'm focusing on just using my body weight, yeah, I'm crossing my arms across my chest, keeping my back flat, head up, shoulders back, and I'm focusing on seeing how fast I can do 30 seconds worth of squats or 50 seconds worth of squats. So I'm really focusing on good form and technique. If I'm using a weighted rope, same principle. If I'm pushing a weighted sled, I'm trying to push it down the turf as far as I can and back as far as I can in a time block. So certain exercises will require us to be able to try and perform as higher volume as we can, while other exercises will focus more on form and technique. The key is to intersperse them correctly between each exercise so that they can do one exercise at one level and then another different. So the best example I can give you is I might put a squat with a bench press with maybe, let's say, doing jumping jacks. And they're going to do those 3 exercises in sequence in their particular block.
Sounds good. All right. We've been talking about the book the whole time, but I want you to finish up. The book is called Metabolic Training, The Ultimate Guide to the Ultimate Workout. Just plug the book. Tell everybody about the structure and what they're going to get out of this book.
Certainly. Well, thanks for allowing me to do that. First and foremost, I want to thank my co-author, Mike Barnes, who I worked on with. Mike and I have been friends for 30 years in the industry and worked together a long time. The key thing that we focused on with the book is I really wanted people to get the maximum benefit out of one book where no matter what your goals were, no matter what your objectives were, no matter what your fitness needs were, we were able to give you some kind of resource to be able to utilize. We were able to give you the exercise techniques that you could look up and follow. We were able to give you the amount of repetitions you're supposed to do or the amount of time you're supposed to spend doing something, how many sets you're supposed to do, and then also give you example weights of, if I'm a beginner, I should be looking to start with these weights. If I'm intermediate, start with these weights. So really what we were trying to do is give people the cookbook for fitness training where you don't have to really spend a lot of time thinking about it. It's all right there for you. And I wanted to give it to them in one very comprehensive, simple resource. It's a 300-page book. It's all color. And the goal of it is it's something you can easily throw in any book bag that you're taking with you or your suitcase, because Human Kinetics really did a good job of compressing the book into a nice size that fits into anything. So you're not feeling like you're carrying a textbook with you. You're carrying a very simple, easy to handle book.
Absolutely. And I will say the sections, you learn a little bit about the philosophy and some of the quote unquote boring stuff in the beginning, right? And then all the exercises, and then that's section 2. And then I think section 3 is a lot of the programming, and there's plenty of programming in there. So you did a great job with this book. I'd agree. I actually brought it to work today because I had to check on it to prepare for the interview. So it was easy to carry. So John, thanks so much for doing this. Congratulations on the release of the book. And we really appreciate you coming on and talking about it.
Thanks, Anthony. Before I hang up with you, one of my staff, Brian Zarbertani, has been one of your biggest followers for many years, thinks the world of you and always says great things about you. And he said, if you're on with Anthony today, you just tell him that we love what he does. And on a personal level, obviously, I've been following you for a long time. We've been friends a long time. And I can't thank you enough for all the great things you do for our industry. And your 50 for 50 class or program, working out after the age of 50, I think is right on. I tell people about it all the time. And I said, see, here's the example of someone who's really focused on that population. So keep up the great work because we all need it.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, John.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 370 of the Strength Coach Podcast. Guys, the show notes are located at strengthcoachpodcast.com. Don't forget, you can try the new strengthcoach.com out for 7 days for free. Go to strengthcoach.com for your free trial. Special thanks to Chris Poirier and the folks over at Perform Better. The holiday sale is here, up to 40% off so many items. Sale items include the Ultimate Sandbag, TRX trainers, all kinds of bands, med balls, plyo boxes, dumbbells, barbells, bumper plates, and racks. Check it all out at performbetter.com. Thanks to Coach Boyle and John Graham for sharing their insights and philosophies into the world of strength conditioning, performance enhancement, and metabolic training. Thanks to Sumit Seth and Naamly, helping build relationships through personalized communication so your members stay longer and pay longer. Go to Naamly.com. Use the referral code StrengthCoach to get started on a free 30-day trial. Thanks to AG1 from Athletic Greens. Visit athleticgreens.com/StrengthCoach and get your free year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs today. That's going to do it for this episode. My name is Anthony Renna. Thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you next time.